You're live, Mr. Reinhardt.
Okay. Thank you, everyone. Finance Committee meeting July 28, 2016. It is a bit of a light agenda tonight, but it's some things that I've been putting off because of everything else that's been going on that I need to go over with you. But it will be somewhat short agenda. Go to the next slide. We had 3 items. I should say 4 items on the agenda. The first one has been canceled, and we are going to have that at a later date. And I think that should be exciting for everyone because these are pretty impressive students, former students, I should say. And I'm looking forward to do that. Update of investment consultant activities. You haven't heard about that lately, but things are moving forward, and I'm going to go over that. I'm also going to be going over a change in the law that's going to allow school districts and municipalities invest in things they weren't allowed to invest in the past, which I just want to throw out some concerns in regard to that. The very short discussion of the tax collector's manual and organizing the committee to really review that. I'm going to go over some dates and things such as that, so you have an understanding of where we got to be and what are the dates. And finally, I'm just going to talk briefly about a meeting Mr. Thomas, myself, and Ms. Trioli had with Gallagher in regard to our healthcare and where we're moving for that to be more proactive on where our costs are going. In fact, I'm going to start with that right now because I don't have that really on my agenda, and Wendy isn't here tonight, so I'm just going to take that on. Last week we met with Gallagher, who is our healthcare benefits consultant, thank you. And we have recently seen some real high cost increases. If you remember, we were around 10% the first look, and then we jumped up and the budget had actually be increased by another over $400,000. We really want to look at that, including maybe marketing our prescription drug, because I think that went up over 17% this year. So that is in the process. I have another meeting with just Gallagher, myself, and Christine next Monday, I think it is, to go over some of their responses. But we're going to get some more detailed information in regard to that. We'll share that at a later meeting once we get that information. You okay? Okay, let's go to the next slide. Tax collector compensation. I'm going to hand out the current tax collector manual. Okay. And I don't want to spend a lot of time with this, but I want the board to understand where we need to be with this. The tax collectors are an elected position. The tax collectors run on a 4-year term. Their term is up in 2017, meaning that we need every 4 years to set compensation. We have 5 tax collectors for all of our municipalities, each of our municipalities, 4-year term. And by February 15th of the year of the election, we have to set their compensation. That allows anyone that is interested then to run for the elected position with an understanding of what their compensation will be. That is why you have to do it. And you have to give them time to understand that. So February 15, 2017 will be the deadline because of the elections in 2017. That means our last board meeting before that is where we have to take action. And that is the February 2nd, 2017 board meeting is where we have to approve this. Mr. Boddick has taken interest in this area, and I believe he and Wendy have spoken about this, and Mark has volunteered to set up a committee structure where he will bring back to the board and the committee recommendations on next year's compensation structure and tax collection structure. I don't know if you want to say anything more than that, or
just anybody that's interested in being on the committee, let me know. So we should have less than 5, right? So that's really what it is. Okay. So anybody else, just let me know.
Denise just
And does anyone have an objection?
You just volunteered.
She did. Good. Does
So
anyone
did
have?
you, Wendy, and Mark? So
No, it's okay.
you're on,
I'd like
Wendy on, I was asking about Wendy.
I don't think.
No, Wendy
Yeah.
is not going to be on the committee. And I'm going to be on there for any assistance that needs to be done. And I'm helping Mark with some things with that already. I'm already.
First of all, does anyone have an objection to me kind of taking the horns on this?
Oh, by all means, it's great.
Well, just want to make sure.
And thank you, Denise.
Thank you.
Okay.
Is the intent to try and get these fees reduced or just modernize the code?
I think
Or both? I mean,
the intent is to be as fair as possible on
Right,
both
right.
sides and to be certainly more clear in the,
Okay.
in the tax collector manual. Because there's a lot of ambiguity that's caused us to try that fast.
I don't have an agenda, I just was curious, what, it is a little convoluted. So, yeah.
And we've recently eliminated the per capita tax.
Right, that's
So
in
we
here still.
have, yes, we have put together a compensation structure which has been jumbled together with that, and now we want to solidify it to make sure that it's very well put together.
Okay.
And maybe contemplating if the occupation assessment tax would ever go away.
Okay.
So,
And, I can see where setting the compensation too low would create problems.
Absolutely, yeah.
So, yeah, it ought to be competitive and it ought to be reasonable, fair to both sides.
So if anyone else wants to be on the committee, right now it's me and Denise.
I think Bill does.
Okay? And
But
I expected
don't want to
that,
speak
yeah.
for him, but
anybody else, just let me know. We got room for one more.
Yeah, did you
Just
see
if
one?
Bill's on there.
I'm happy to help you if you need help.
Okay.
If you're good, I'm good.
That's fine.
let's extend that. I wanted to make sure this got out. Mark has been talking to me about it, saying, when are we going to do this, when are we going to do this?
No, thanks for doing it, Mark.
So that is done. Okay, let's go to the next slide. That's good. We talked about that already. Investment advisor update. Met with Cornerstone on June.
Can we just go back?
Yeah.
We talked about, and this popped in my head, Wendy and I talked about this last week. There was this discussion about this citizens group, if you remember, that was part of the capital planning committee last year. And if if time allows, it would be good to bring members of that group back in to this discussion, I think. So if anybody else has any opinions about that, and if they're able to do it to the tax collector, back, because they're part of the community. Tax collectors are part of the community. These people are part of the community. It's all a community-based operation.
I'm assuming you're gonna engage the tax collectors as well, the current tax collectors a little bit to at least
Yeah.
what works, what doesn't,
Yeah. Yes. The answer is yes.
Yeah. How you do it,
Just harken back to the meeting stuff.
yeah, I know.
Yes. Okay. Does anybody object to the idea of having some members of the community on this committee as well?
Great.
Okay.
My question is, were you referring back to the capital planning committee?
There was a subset of the capital planning committee that was kind of the
Finance
finance
group?
committee. And we batted around the idea, I've talked about this since my election cycle. We should have a group of individuals from the community looking at financial issues in the district to help us. And this may be a good way to kind of put a toe in the water to see what kind of value they add and how it really comes off. Yeah, okay.
And will you broaden that or just keep it with the group that was part of the capital planning committee?
Yeah, I don't know if we want
I
to.
mean, I don't think you want to get too large.
But I
I'm sure
think-
that this particular issue is a wildly exciting issue for the public, so I
Right.
think it's smart to target it
Yeah.
that way, and then
We
we
have
probably
these-
get updates anyway, somewhere along the way. And then
We have those people, kind of available. I don't remember if you've talked to anybody or not since then. We can
No,
see-
I'm not disagreeing, it's more a matter of curiosity than anything. I mean, really, when that group was formed, it wasn't like we were turning people away at the door.
Right.
So these are already identified, at least at that point in time.
Yeah.
Obviously, things change and people change, and their circumstances, but that was a large group for capital planning, but those
Actually,
were,
we were turning people away.
We were, yeah, but-
but not by
No,
the,
but I'm just saying, but
I mean,
we did turn people away.
3 or
but-
5 people who missed a deadline.
Right.
We're not talking about 40 people who couldn't get onto the
Right.
committee.
Okay. Sorry.
No problem. The investment consulting, I'm going to hand these out a little later, but I want to talk about this part of it first. This has been a long process that we've been involved in, but we have been moving forward. There have been some inactivity, and part of that is Cornerstone, part of that is me going forward. But on June 22nd, we did meet, and I think we're on a fast track now to get things moving. My preference is to have an investment or a money manager in place and a custodial bank in place, and start investing with the money manager and having him have access before we get all our tax revenue, because if we don't, it's another year that we don't have our biggest balances invested that way. And if you realize, been looking at it, you're seeing I'm not laddering anything, I'm kind of very just hold and keep it where it is, and I haven't been managing much, not that we did much compared to what we bargained to do. But one factor that I think makes this probably more important than it has been in the past is, if you've heard that the legislature passed Act 10 of 2016, which broadens the type of investments that school districts and municipalities can purchase. In the past, I would tell you, with the investments we were able to purchase, much of it was, you didn't have to worry about credit risk or anything like that, because we were so conservative. Banks, if you had good collateral, you were in good shape, because not a lot was a problem. Well, this is exposing school districts, business managers, boards to a lot of things that we never got that much involved in. As you've always heard me say, I rely on Pliget. I buy some CDs with some banks. In the last 5-6 years, many banks didn't want government money because they weren't making any money by loaning it, so they weren't after our deposits. They're too expensive because they have to collateralize them and everything else. So if you remember, we were with Citizens Bank. After 2007, they said, we're not giving you any more interest on any of your accounts, and you have until, I think it was December 31st, to get your money out of here, because we're not collateralizing it, because there was a law set that they didn't have to collateralize it and didn't give us interest. So they just stepped away from us and said, go find someone else. We ended up going with TD Bank, and we have a good relationship with TD Bank. But when you look at this, we are now allowed to invest in any government-sponsored agency. Fannie Mae, Freddie Mac, all of those. Must be at least A-rated, the investment you're in, no maturity limit, previously limited to short term. So that's saying, someone like myself, if I look at it and say, oh, here's a Freddie Mac, and you see that it is backed by mortgages. And when you see all these collateralized mortgage obligations and the way they're all broken up and everything, the cash flow isn't anything close to what you think of a mortgage. And you are susceptible to loss of principal and interest and things like that. In the past, if someone did that, it was not proper and it was illegal. As this reads here, I believe that it's now legal to do that. So you better watch what you're purchasing and understand exactly what it is. Repurchase agreements are a tool that I believe have been used more on the bank side on how they're handling our money, rather than us purchasing repurchase agreements and how they're collateralized. Negotiable certificates of deposit is an issue that I understand is creating a huge issue out there legally. Negotiable instruments, certificates of deposit, it's my understanding that many people are interpreting this and saying, banks don't have to collateralize your certificates of deposit anymore. So you could have a CD out there for $10 million, and you're exposed for $9,750,000 because you only have FDIC insurance for $250,000, and they don't even have to put collateral aside for you to perfect your interest. So all these things are happening that, if you think Bob Reinhardt's looking at everything that people are doing, Bob Reinhardt isn't, and I gotta tell you, I don't know all the schemes that go along with this. I'm describing things that I'm associated with and I understand. So as you go through this, the issue here is understand there's a lot more danger out there, and more than ever, I would probably tell you, I am glad there's someone that's gonna be in this capacity here that's gonna evaluate it. Now, we just have to make sure they do evaluate it, and they are giving us the type of reports and analytic data that's supporting what we're doing. So it's gonna be very interesting as we move forward, but I would tell you, Mark may say, Bob's been fighting me tooth and nail through this whole process. I will tell you that I've always felt that Pliget was a very good investment. I think it's very safe. That's the only disagreement Mark and I have ever had. But beyond that, I am very happy with this, and I do believe that this may be the start of other larger governments doing the same type of thing.
And by this, for those who might be listening, you're referring to Cornerstone?
Cornerstoners are investment consultants.
Right.
We're gonna have money managers under them. They're gonna be evaluating the money managers and making sure the money managers are investing appropriately. It's not gonna be Bob Reinhardt looking over them, so they're gonna be evaluating the money managers, so it's more like segregation of duties and a watchdog.
And Pliget is?
Pliget is the money manager. So in the past, all the money, not all, the majority of our funds went into Pliget, Pennsylvania Local Government Investment Trust,
That's what, yeah.
which is not a division of Pennsylvania. It's got nothing to do with the state. It's just named that way. It's a private entity. The discussion started because when I read Pliget's first annual statements, I sound like Jerry, just give you some background. I read that they had just standard, what's called SIPC insurance, which is $500,000. At the time, we had somewhere between $40 to $50 million. After some conversation with them, and honestly, the first couple of conversations, they couldn't confirm any insurance over that amount. They came back to us and said, actually, the custodian bank has $10 million, which in my mind left us exposed to some level of fraud, which has happened in the past. So, not with Pliget, but in other agencies. Pliget and PFM are really inextricably linked. PFM never has, and I would say never will have another money manager other than Pliget. They don't have any employees. Their employees are Pliget employees, so they're very, very young. So it's disingenuous for PFM to say that they're consultants, not that they do, but PFM is not a consultant. In this case, they're very connected to Pliget. So what we wanted to do is bring in a third party to help Bob mitigate the risk he has and to help us mitigate the risk we have for replacing these funds. Because if God forbid something went wrong, everyone would look at Bob and say, what'd you do? Right? This way, hiring a firm like Cornerstone, so we a committee of this board interviewed 6 different firms, I guess we had 6 or so, different firms. Cornerstone came out ahead. They've done a very good job so far. They've helped us identify some issues with the custodian bank we have. As far as how they're collateralizing assets, which opened up my eyes. And it's timely because this change in the law is potentially concerning, right? So if we decide, or through the advice of our consultant, that we want to have investments in these types of investments to get some more return, we've got to have that model of risk, right? Because like to Bob's point, we can't take any risk here, folks, right? We just can't do it. So we just want to make sure that there's a level of, I don't want to say protection, but somebody in between the decisions of where the money goes.
Good. Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, next slide.
Do you want to talk about the custodian? Yes.
Yeah, I'm gonna go, you wanna talk about what we've done with TD Bank?
What we discovered with TD and what Cornerstone has uncovered with TD? Is that appropriate?
Yeah. understand that the investments that I talk about of what we can purchase were very, very limited and very, very conservative. The collateral banks are allowed to put aside for public deposits is a different list of investments. So we can invest directly, very conservatively, and very limited. But once you put money in a bank, your deposits, your time deposits, anything, money then is held, collateral is held to support that. In case the bank went up, belly up, we would take over their assets and sell them off, and we would get our monies back. So what's happening is the list of what you're allowed to invest in is much greater than the list what we're allowed, collateralizing is much greater. So when we looked at what was actually collateralizing our money in TD Bank, it's really a securitized investment that is backed by consumer credit card balances. Now, the credit rating of these balances are the higher credit rating balances. They're not subpar or anything like that. What was determined though, and think of it this way, TD Bank has our deposits, so they are paying us 25 basis points. I think it's up to 30 basis points an hour, 29 basis points. They take our money, and now they purchase this receivable investment, and they're making 1.5% on the receivable investment. So now this spread is, they're paying out 29 basis points, and they're making over 1% more with what they've invested in. Cornerstone and myself and Gil Chloe met with TD Bank and said, this is what we see. We need a higher rate of interest coming back to us. And told them we may go out for an RFP if they can't provide more. We are waiting for their response. We didn't expect their response right away. But if they bring it up to 50 basis points, 60 basis points, they have already doubled our money with our deposits. That's our float and everything else. So that's what's going on with that. And I don't know that I really spelled that out here, but that's what it is.
It's really good information that Cornerstone does that nobody sitting on this board or probably not us would have ever had the time to spend digging how the deposits are collateralized. Because we're talking about bank deposits, and we always think about the safest level of investment there is. And we're talking about TD Bank, which is a big bank, right? So we trust that. So they've earned their money already. And by the way, Cornerstone is charging us $25,000 a year, which is
That's for 2 years after that service, depending on how they go. We'll talk to them again. I do believe that they want to model this for others, and that would be what they're doing. I'm going to hand out the most recent investment policy statement, which is going to be our investment board policy. The beginning of this is probably going to look a little differently because I got to put in that it's our policy number 609.
Thank you, sir.
this is drafted by Cornerstone.
This is drafted by Cornerstone, reviewed by our solicitor. So we have everybody's input to this. So what I'm doing here is, I just want to show you the changes that have been made since the last draft, and it's really looking at perfecting some of the language that's in the investment policy statement. So if you go, there's two changes. One, an added footnote at the bottom of page 6. And it's really just better defining what an investment pool is, like Pliget. I will tell you that I do believe that Cornerstone will use Pliget for some of our investing. And I'm gonna wait and let Kevin explain all that rather than me get into that right now, but, that's why he has that, identified a little better there. And then if you go to, page 5, he's expanded the security guidelines. They're saying other investments as may be from time to time allowed under Pennsylvania code. What is happening here is that he is broadening it and allowing the money managers to propose investing this way, but it would need to be signed off on by us and Cornerstone saying, yes, it makes sense. Cornerstone has explained to me that there are going to be spreads now between what we used to do and what investments are available. And based on the spread between where we are and where they are, there could be acceptable risk that we would take on for that. But the money managers can't do that without first coming to us and explaining exactly what they want to do. So that is a change in this. They already had different things in there. And the last portion was just showing the investments. And it used to say short-term obligations of the United States government or its agencies or instrumentalities. Because of Act 10 now, it's not short-term any longer. It can keep going.
I'm assuming you say acceptable risk, you're talking about access to capital risk, not loss of principal risk, or loss of investment risk.
I don't want to answer that myself because I don't want to say something that I told you and find out.
Okay.
Wait. Yes. Okay, let's go to the next one. Okay, this is the meat of what's going on here, is that Cornerstone did issue a two-part RFI, request for information. The first one is for custodial bank, meaning that that is the bank that would hold the investments in our names. And then the investment manager, that's the company that's going to determine what we're going to invest in when, and they're going to manage everything. 13 firms were requested. I will tell you that Cornerstone showed me, I think, a list of 150 money managers that they evaluated originally, based on their risk-adjusted analysis. And I'm going to tell you that, and I don't know exactly how that's done. They've evaluated the top firms that they would be interested in speaking to. So there are now 3 firms that we're interviewing next Tuesday. I will tell you, Gail and I are going to watch this, but I do not believe I'm going to participate much unless they just want a clarification of a.
Is this their office?
Yes. So we are doing that, 3 finalists. And the custodial banks, I've told Cornerstone, if they want me to give them a heads up or something or help them out, I would, but I don't believe it's necessary for me to go and interview these custodial banks. I look at it as really based on the fees, capabilities, and the integration with the investment manager. I think that's the most important things, and that's what they've explained to me. Are you okay with that? Or would you think I should be at the custodial?
No. How do they, so you kind of, I'm saying with those interviews. So, does Rob Cox, did you talk to Rob Cox about this? So you know that
I think I have.
what's the requirement for public,
Disclosure,
what's that?
disclosure or notice?
Yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, do we have, I mean, this is being done at their office and nothing. You're gonna be there, there's not gonna be any board members there. But I'm I'm assuming there's gonna be some kind of record of the discussion.
I'm sure there is. They're conducting it. I am not conducting it, but I will tell you, I got an email with their prescribed questions and what they're gonna be asking and type of
I should
questions.
say, call Rob and ask him if there's anything you're currently concerned about, anything we need to cover, about disclosure, the public disclosure process.
Isn't this the disclosure?
Could be, I don't know, it's just what came to my head, and I thought about council rights business being done in an office in Bethlehem without us, I don't know, it's a little disjointed.
Well, Gail and I will definitely be there
Yeah.
to see what goes on.
And ultimately,
Many
we'll
times
have
that
to
I'm-
vote on it, right? I mean,
What?
ultimately, we'll have to vote on
Absolutely.
Yes.
it. So, I mean,
And I'll be recommending something to you through
So that-
Cornerstone, and you'll have access to Cornerstone to ask the questions and things like that.
I agree with
I
you,
think-
Mark. I mean, asking the question of our solicitor, I mean,
Yeah.
that just makes sense.
It's the same as calling a Ford dealer in Bethlehem and saying,
Yeah.
give me 3 different trucks that
Yeah.
will fit. It's kind of the same thing.
It's the same
so,
thing.
Yeah.
And it's being conducted by the
Right.
the firm that we
We
approved.
hired.
I think it's a good idea. On the custodial bank selection, is it in any way acceptable to somehow favor local banks?
I will tell you that many of these banks, because of the activity and the quick reporting, we had, I think it was Fulton Bank, we got involved with it, and they didn't have the ability to do some of the technical things. Cornerstone gets a data dump every night, so that they know exactly what happened, and it goes right into their system, so that the next morning, if something happened that, how I understand it, is there's flags that are gonna come up if there's an investment that they don't believe was in this set. So I believe they do things like that, we've found that some of the banks just can't handle this type of, these transactions.
That's a good question. We did look at that, because we have banks that are good partners with us.
Yes,
Right? So if it makes sense to have them involved, and we looked at Fulton Bank, and we looked at Custodial Bank, and probably 1 or 2 others, or they.
Well,
looked at
yeah, the other
it.
one was, First National in Newtown, they don't do any of that stuff.
So they were, for whatever
Good.
reason, disqualified.
So you've already looked at that. Great.
Okay, go ahead, Matt. That is it.
I'll have to figure out more.
Any questions in regard to this? I think I've hit up with everything. Again, I'm feeling like after Tuesday, I'll have more information, and that hopefully at the next finance meeting, I will go over what our recommendations are. And I really want to get this up so that we start using the process during this year so that we can start seeing the improvement, I would say, or the yield from doing this.
I'm concerned, not for us, but just, we opened the state has opened this up to chase yield now. And with that comes the potential for loss of principal.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
That's why I'd be really interested to see them do some risk modeling. Because if the risk is access to the money,
Oh, that's not really risk.
that's manageable.
Yeah,
Well, it is.
But
It's risk if you have everything in there.
Right,
And
right.
that was the concern before, because we were dumping, not to criticize Bob, we were dumping everything in the plate, not knowing really what that meant.
Yeah,
In
yeah.
a high-risk environment.
Yeah,
And a high-risk environment can happen like that, like we saw in 2008.
Right.
So if that risk is just, I can't get my money tomorrow, I can get it in 10 days, that's a whole other type of, that's real risk,
yeah,
but it's not, I got $10 million in there, and by the way, you're only getting 9 back.
yeah.
That's
Yeah.
devastating.
And that's,
really.
and that, the latter is what I was, and that's, this, you've got enough liquid assets to make payroll and stuff if we, there's a 10-day lag, and that's not.
And I don't believe our cash flows are anything that we're trying to
No.
ladder things right up to the nitty gritty there. We also, I will tell you, because we borrow money for projects, there's money sitting up there real short term that once we get this going, I want to start laddering that stuff because that's going out more than 1 year. And
And
that's stuff.
it's enough money we can make a little bit of return
Yes.
on if get done.
Even, you think about it, going back to Plague for a minute, I did an analysis. And we paid them something like $120,000 and received $27,000 or $30,000 in interest, right? So that's backwards. Right. We're trying to get rid of that problem, and I think we're going to. But even with TD Bank, we're able to go from 29 basis points, which is 0.29%, 0.29%, to 50 basis points on $50 million. So that's real money, right? So
Yeah, it is.
just even that move alone is a big one.
You said 50
We're not
million?
talking, I don't know what's the number now, where do we have it to?
Today,
If you know, ballpark.
I don't know. I would say 50 million is good numbers.
It gets that high?
Our investments will
Yeah.
be, without the capital, our investments probably go up to $140, $150 million when the tax revenue comes in.
Yes, at that peak.
Yes.
Okay. You have to segregate, do you have to segregate the capital and the
Yes.
operating?
Yes,
So they have to be invested separately?
yes. And they have to be segregated because what I need to do is, with the bond funds, you have all these IRS regulations. You can't have
Oh,
arbitrage
sure.
bonds. So I have to spend it down within 3 years or have very close to 85% within
Right.
3 years. I think you have to spend down. So I have to be able to show which bond issues I'm using first and everything such as that for the spend down. Now, one of the things, you have a temporary period of 3 years, so you can earn whatever you want to earn within that 3-year period as long as you're drawing down your money. But after that, you will, and if you're not meeting those spend down tests, you have to pay arbitrage back to the IRS. So that's the thing that I always worry about, that I don't want to go with a money manager. They're investing wildly and I can't get these reports done, and now we're not in compliance with the IRS. That's very concerning to me.
Cornerstone will be doing the arbitrage calculation.
I want Cornerstone to answer who's going to do that, because I do believe that that's one area that they are looking towards, like, but I don't want to say that for sure, but that's my understanding, that they recognize what it's doing there. And, it's, read through the investment policy. This is going to look a little different by the time you guys get it, because I got to put on, board policy 609.
You better run it through the policy committee too. So,
I will. It's been run through the experts and Rob Cox. We sat down with Rob and went over all that. So this is just something that's been moving forward for a long time.
Yeah, well, and I saw the
That was
references.
time.
Yeah. This is 3/4 of the investment committee, the policy committee rather.
Oh,
So you have.
And I noticed the references to state law and so forth, so yeah, it looks like policy.
I will tell you, I did show another business manager that, and he told me, you're nuts if you're gonna have that all as one policy. So originally, I broke it up and I put 609 just referencing that, and then Rob got it, and he said no. That's the way I wanted to do it, and he said, no, I'd rather have that as the policy. So you guys are gonna vote on that?
It's a mega policy.
Yes.
Biblical.
Create a policy, reference policy here, otherwise it's going to say.
Well, we have a lot of administrative regulations that support our policies. And I was thinking of this being some sort of thing like that, as opposed to have all this language in there. But he said, put it in there. I just hope all the policies don't become looking like that.
I doubt it. The good thing is Robert had the experience of the policy review process at Westchester, so.
I appreciate it, Rob. I know it has been a little bit of back and forth, and I appreciate it.
I've learned a lot, and I've learned, it makes you more skeptical about when I start hearing from Cornerstone about all the way people can manipulate returns and things like that, it does concern me. Although I will tell you again, that if for my 26 years, Pliget has been the most reputable organization I've ever invested with, and I would still stand by what they do. I understand Mark's concerns and things like that, but I've seen bad things happen through my career. It usually happens when interest rates tweak up. And with interest rates being so low for so long, when they tweak up, head for cover, because if someone's doing something wrong, that's when it's gonna start showing its head.
Well, I just have to say again, since it's recorded, my concerns were not about Liggett directly. My concerns were that the board and you were making decisions and choices which probably weren't as protected as they should.
Yeah.
And it just doesn't hurt to have that third set advisor, that intermediary look at it. And if Cornerstone came in and said, we're fine with Liggett, that would have been fine. There were just a lot of unanswered questions and a lot of fees and things.
We did have, during this process, we did have another phone conversation with Pliggett and Cornerstone about yields and things that Kevin had questions with them about. So Pliggett's been fine with it. They got on the phone with him and they went through all different types of discussions. And it's because Kevin and his analysts are looking at things and can see changes in yields, and they understand the marketplace and the spreads, and they can pick out what portfolios, something's happening there or whatever, and they're trained. And Cornerstone's pretty interesting to me. And as we go forward, you'll hear more from me about how I feel about it, but they're interested.
They do a nice job.
Good.
Stop the broadcast. Meeting adjourned? Or
Any questions?
any other questions? No public comment, no
I
public.
second.